Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily 5 for July 12th, 2023. I'm Leslie Jouflas, founder of Trading Live Online, and I do this segment at least a couple times a month. Today, we're going to be looking at the indexes, and let's go over those first because I always think if you have a finger on the pulse of what the indexes are doing, it's going to help you with individual stock selections. So we'll look at the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and the Dow Jones Industrials, which I think they're just in a bullish pause right now. However, there is a little bit more resistance above, so we'll look at where that is. And I want to take a look at the symbol coin. Now, on June 1st, I did the final bar with David Keller, and on my weekly market setups subscription that I do every week, I've been covering coin for a couple of months because had been seeing bullish tendencies, characteristics coming into the price action of the stock. Now down here, if anybody's interested, I know some of you are learning harmonic patterns and classical technical analysis, and I combine both. And so I put together it was a six session workshops that I did from January to June of this year. And I combine these two elements together, which I think the outcome of that is some very powerful trading tools. So I just released this as a course, and I'm also going to include the course Introduction to Pattern Recognition so you can really learn the correct structure of the patterns that I show you from time to time on your daily 5, and then combine it with some other strong tools, and I know that's going to improve your trading. So you can just use this URL here. If you have questions, here is my email. Feel free to send me an email. Okay, let's get to the charts. So let's start out today with the S&P 500. I'm using the futures chart. You can pull up a SPY chart, even SPX, and you should be able to find these same levels of support, resistance, trend lines that I'm using. So as we know, that 4,200 level, so right back here, if you look at where my horizontal cursor is, we're right around that 4,200 level that was tested many times. And it goes back even further than that. Look at back here all the way back to last year, that 4,200 level. Again, September a year ago, December, and it just was a price level that the market tended to trade around many times. Generally, when that occurs, when the price finally moves away from it, it's usually in a stronger type of a move, which is what I think we're seeing here. And I do think that there's more upside coming in the S&P. But whenever I form a directional opinion, I always like to look at where that might be wrong because markets can do anything that they want to do. All we can do is use our best analysis, but we should always have flexibility for when the market doesn't conform to what we are anticipating, so we don't get caught staying stuck in a direction that the market has just changed from. So we'll look at that as well. So here's the 4,200 level, the breakout to the upside. Down here where this arrow was there, it preceded this big consolidation before that breakout. There was an inverse head and shoulder pattern. This also here, left shoulder, head, right shoulder extended. That also has the look of the inverse head and shoulder pattern that is now above that 43.26, and you can see there's a gap area right there. So this gap area, if the market were to come down and do more of correction, really want to watch if this holds as support. And then right below it, we've got the 4,200 level. So these are really main areas that I would be watching to see how price does on any test down that far. But so far, we haven't seen much of a test. All we've seen so far is this pullback comes up to this high, just slightly higher high. You can see on the RSI, it makes a bit of a divergence, and we've just had a little bit of a pullback. So from here, there's a couple of things that I am seeing that price might do as far as pattern. So I'll show you how I work that out. And I never know what it's going to do. All I can do is mark in what are potential patterns. So one of them is if it makes another high above here, then getting up above 4,500, which is where one of my targets had been. We just hit 4,500 and came down, but there were still some price levels just above 4,500. And so we might see it travel up there. And if we look over here, we just kind of follow along, look at where the market dropped. It tested a trend line, another test up, and then really dropped from there. So maybe testing some of those old price levels with this move up. And so this would be what I call an ending swing ABCD pattern, sell pattern on it. That doesn't mean that the market completely falls out of bed, but we might get a bit more of a correction and testing down to some of these levels, which may offer very nice buy opportunities. The next thing I like to look at is a simple retracement of where this pattern is coming into. So we can see that it's also coming into where this A, B, C, D, these are about equal lines here, coming into just about this 786 retracement level. So again, possibly some more resistance from that Fibonacci retracement. The other thing that I will be watching is the RSI. Now, I mapped out a little range here in the RSI that it has formed since October of last year. And so what I'm looking at with this is where the upper ends of this range are and the lower ends of this range. And I'm using it where this breakout level is. We can see as this was really coiling sideways, forming a range, you can see that the RSI also is forming a range with it, which makes sense because this is derivative of price. And we can see that the lows right here where they were holding, notice that as it did that, they held at fairly a bullish level on the RSI. So this wasn't coiling and we weren't seeing the RSI drag down around lows while it was coiling. It was holding a bullish level. And then you see where these peaks are, broke above that resistance level. And so right now on this last high, it made a bit of a divergence on this little turn, holding up here. That's still bullish. And if it pops up here, then I think we're likely to see possibly another divergence up around this area. So I think we can make sort of a zone in here. We have these highs, we have this high, we have this pattern that also has some extensions there. So as long as the RSI is staying in the bullish areas and not breaking this particular pattern of the highs and the lows, even on the pullbacks, we're likely seeing just a pullback in a bullish market. And we have those levels marked out that if those break, then we can take another look and see if conditions have changed. But so far, I'm thinking probably more upside, maybe a bit more, and then a little bit more of a pause. Now notice I just showed you the S&P chart, and the Nasdaq has already traded up to that 786 level. So the S&P is lagging a bit behind the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq has been the strongest of the indexes on this last rally. We can see that on this chart. And it's just hovering around the 786. It hasn't turned bearish in any way. It's just getting some pullback. So I think this is just a pause and a bull market. And again, unless we see some price action that changes that, then we'll we'll assume that the uptrend will continue. Now, with that said, there's always price levels that the market's going to test. This is just what price does. It spends its days testing price levels, trying to decide if it wants to hover around them, go through them, fail at them. That's what it does. So here, if we look at this price move where this trend line breakout is right here, we can see that the market where these from the high to low, this Fibonacci retracement, we can see how easily the price got through these Fibonacci retracement levels. So that's a sign of bullishness. And if it was in the reverse, it would be a sign of bearishness. So here, the market is still hovering around this 786. If we were to see more of a decline, then possibly down to this gap or maybe retest this 618 level. But right now, it looks like it's just forming a range and going sideways. It's testing this resistance area up here. So this is from 2021. You can see how this big range formed, finally broke it, and did the steep decline. Now it's back up to that. So sometimes it takes a bit of time for a market to test these areas. What I'm not seeing right here is just total price rejection. And so that looks more like this over here, where the market drops out of this range. It declines some more, comes up, and it retests that level. And it totally turns around. That's a real price rejection of that level. We've not seen that here coming up and testing it. So we really want to watch this level a little bit more high on the Nasdaq, and that's going to make the same type of pattern that I just showed you on the S&P. So we'll take a look at that and see what happens if we get a little bit more of a deeper pullback, which again might offer a good buying opportunity. The Dow Jones Industrial, I'm using the YM. This is the Dow Jones Emini futures contract. And we can see if we compare that to the S&P and NASDAQ we just looked at, it had traded up to the 786 last December and then backed off from there. But look at this. This is looks like a left shoulder head, right shoulder inverse head and shoulder pattern. Now, with this, we have not seen a decisive break above this resistance level. I think we're going to need to see that for the market to continue the progression to the upside. And we want to see a very decisive move above that area. So we've got a little gap marked in here. The market's already tested that gap. If that breaks this support, likely to see a bit more of a decline. The right shoulder, we would not want to see that exceeded in order for this potential pattern to still be intact. So next stop for the Dow, if it gets above this level, is likely going to be up around this 886 area. So we'll keep an eye on this. And again, no big declines, coming in here. It's just forming a range, same as the Nasdaq and the S&P, as it tests some prices up and down. So let's take a look now at the chart of coin. Okay, so coin, this market has really been moving from the lows back here again on, it was June 1st, right? It's been right about here where this little range had formed. But I had mentioned that I was, seeing bullish signs in here. So even though it had a bit of a dip down, the market then has started this uptrend. So I've got a couple of these levels marked in here. So the lower one, the price held as support, it formed an ABCD buy pattern down here. And it just is getting above this resistance area, and the next one is going to be here. But this is a large sideways pattern. And generally, if we get, see the market exceed this level, then likely to see a move, a strong move up, probably heading towards the 0.382. You can see some clustering back here, a little gap back here, but I believe it's probably going to continue to the upside. Now, for a pullback, if you're interested in, moving, getting into this move, uh, we can look at these previous areas right here. So any move back down towards here, the 72 level would be support level. Even back around to the 66 would be a support level. Uh, I like to use intraday charts to look for particular retracement patterns, which, by the way, in that course I'll cover. So I think that there are specific market conditions that are better for retracement patterns than others, and I think this is one of those conditions. We can also look at using just a fib retracement. Now, I don't know if this is getting some more high, so we'd have to make an adjustment there. But around the 3 to the 0.50, these are going to be the strongest support levels on a retracement. But you can see the 618, if price were to, get down to that 618, it's going to be right around where these previous highs are as well. Now, the RSI has been climbing very strongly, and it's above the 75. It's just at the 80 level now. Now, this doesn't mean that the market's going to turn, that it's overbought and it's going to turn completely around. Many times when markets go into a new trend, and this still has some, some levels to clear, but so far it has the early signs of trending. When they go into the trends like that, traders make a judgment that because this is overbought or whatever oscillator they're using, that the market is going to get a big move in the opposite direction, and that's just not true, especially in new trends. This RSI can hover up here as the market gains more strength. And again, if we see very shallow pullbacks and then the market continues to climb, that's showing us that there's underlying strength. So I believe that coin, maybe a bit of a pause in here, testing these prices, but looking for pullbacks to buy, and then looking for this upper level here for price to break that on the upside and then continue up towards that 382 retracement. So that's it for me for today's Your Daily 5, and I'd like to thank you for watching. And as always, I try and check back and look for any comments or questions that I can answer. And then the beginning slide has my email if you'd like to send me something email. So have a great week, everybody. I'll see you on the next Your Daily 5.